Okay. I want to talk about statement this and this, but let me first talk about functions. So I will take the statement, since we are using video, I will take the statement because we need to complete all this thing so that we'll be able to start building applications. Talk about a method, function.demo.py. When we talk about a function, if we have something, let's say salary is equal to 200, and I say, okay, print, right? Salary. If I have other things there again, if I say product is equal to product price is equal to 1005 this, if I print this, so immediately I run this file, or I run this file and execute this. Let me say function demo.py. Immediately I execute this, every block of code within this file will be executed. You understand? So every block of code within that file will be executed. It will just run and run everything. But the essence of having a function is to make sure that we segregate some method, that some functionality or block of code that we don't just want to run. We want to make use of this thing in features, and those are the method, a function. And I'm going to teach you something. We have to talk. This is a signature of a function. You will have a def here. You have a function name, params. Then you can return something. You understand? You can return something. We have two type of method. We have method with return type or function with return type, function without return type. We have function with return type. We have function without return type, right? And then both function can take parameter in one way or the other, and the function may not take parameter. You see, this parameter is not necessary. The function can take parameter, and the function cannot may not take what parameter. Do you get it? Now, if you want to work, and let me give you an example. Let's say we want to write uh, a function that takes takes employee salary as parameter, right? And add a bonus of 200. I mean, let me say bonus of 200 to it, then print it. So all you need to do is you need to give it a this signature, then followed by the what function name. Let's say uh, get employee salary, or we can say uh, compute net salary. So they say the function takes in employee as what? Taking what? Parameter. So you can put this and put, if you like, you can decide to parameterize it. So if you do this, it means that you are telling Python that the type of this one you are going to take is what? Int. You understand? If you like, you can say float. You understand? It means that the type of this thing you want to take is what? Float. You understand? But if you don't like, you say you don't want to, you can put it so that Python we try to do dynamic typing. At the point when you want it to execute, it will use this one to actually determine. It will use this one to determine the type of this data. You understand? Now let's say what this method saying is add a bonus. The method asks us to print it. We can say total salary is equal to salary. You understand? Plus what? We can say they say 2000, 2000, right? They say we should print it. I can just print uh total salary. Okay, I can't do it inside print, except it has to be total salary. Can you see it? Now, let's say we have another method that say, okay, this method now, if I explain this method, this is the signature of the method, this is the name of the method, this is the parameter that the method take. You see between here, this is the method or a function body, this is the function body. You understand? Do you get it? Okay, good. Now, this method is not returning anything. It's actually taking parameter, but it's not returning what? Anything. So that means if I call if I run this file now, nothing will happen because I have not actually called the method. You understand? If I call the method compute net salary, let me pass 3000 to it, right? If I run it, you see it give me what? 5000. Print 5000. So the method will only run when you actually call it. That is one thing you need to know. Now the second aspect is if a method returns something, the output of that method will be input for another process or another method. Do you get it? Let's say we have a method that actually return the bonus, right? Let's say get bonus, right? We can return 2000. You get it, right? Now this method is not, the requirement of this method is it doesn't take parameter. So whenever we call it, we are going to call this method without parameter. You understand? So now this method returns something, and I told you that the return value of a method will be an input for another process or another method. You understand? Instead of here, we can make use of this method and say, okay, get bonus. Just call it. Because what is this guy is returning is an input. It's going to be an input for another method. You understand? So we can run it. Do you get it? Did you get it? Hmm. So let's say we have another method that compute net salary with double bonus. Let's say we have another method that even takes salary, but it compute it with double bonus. You understand? But it's now return it. Let's say it return the value. So we can return, let's say salary plus, since they say double bonus, I can say get bonus times what? Times 2, right? I can say return salary plus what? Get bonus times what? 2. If I didn't put this one so that it will first evaluate what is inside the bracket before it will now add it. But you see this kind of method, let me call compute net salary now. Let me pass 3000 there and let's see what will happen. You see nothing happen because this method is a return, it has what? A return type. You understand? This return type will be input for another method or another process, which means that I can actually come here. in another method or in another process, I can actually come here and say total salary is equal to store the value into this one. So that means whatever this one compute and return, it will be what? Store as what? Total salary. So if I want to log it, I can print what? Total salary. Can you see it? It actually do the magic. Now, all you need to know is we have a method with a what? With a return type and a method without what? Return type. And our method can take parameter and it may not what? Take what? Parameter. And if a method is returning something, you should know that the output of that method will be the input of another process or another method or another function. So if you look at it now, let's say now, if you look at it now, did you see what the method is telling us? It's telling us that what is a function. It's telling us that this is a function. The name of the function is what? Define net what? Bonus. It's telling us, can you see it that salary data type is what? Any. You understand? It's returning what? Any. Now let's try something out. I want to teach you something. If you put your cursor on this one too, here, you see, it's telling you that it's literal because it actually know what it's returning. You understand? That's why it's telling you that. But here now, we can actually make this one to. Let's change the this one. Let's say V2 because it must not have the same name. So if you over on V2, you do see that it's returning any. We can now decide that okay, the salary what it we are expecting is a particular data type. If you want to type it, you can put int. I don't know. Do we have int? Yes, we have int. And then look at it. If you put your cursor on it now, it's telling you that it's int. If you want to decide that okay, this is what it will return, you understand? You will put int. Did you get it? So that look, if when I call this method, I don't know what is returning. I already know that it's any data type. But if I decide to call this method, I already know that it's what I'm going to get what int. So if I decide to pass a double here, you understand? By the time I run it, I will get an error. It's supposed to even take, it's supposed to return an error because we have already typed this one to be int. But now you already know that this is how you are, what you are expecting. So one thing you need to know is either you leave your method like this or you put a type and you define the what? Return type. Do you get it? If I want to define the return type to be float, I have to say float, a floating point. Do you get what I'm saying? Even though since as long as I know that it's going to return something, you understand? It's going to return some sort of a decimal point. I can decide to put my return type here. You understand? But let me see. Now, the issue is this. It's not really an issue. You may decide not to put this, leave your method like this, it will still work because Python have two type of typing. You know, when we talk about typing is to determine the data type of a particular variable or the input value you provided to a Python this thing. You understand? So we have two type of typing. We have it's either a static typing or a dynamic typing. Here is a static typing because we already specify the type of what? The variable here. You understand? Ehem. And here we already specify that this is a float, but here it's dynamic. Whenever we call this method, that is when the system will, that is when the Python will try to determine what data type is this and what is the data type is this return type. It will use the value of this one to return it. Take note that we have a dynamic typing and then we have static typing. You understand? And Python is an interpreting language. When we say interpreting language, it executes each of the lines of code one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, and it will do the type. You understand? That is one thing I need you to understand here. And there are cases, it's not necessary that you need to pass, you can define a method. Let's say we want to have a method that take in the name, the name of a person, you understand? The name of a person and the name of the person, salary, and the bonus all together. So let me say get payment, let's call it summary. So let's say you take the name. I may decide to say, okay, this is string. You take, but it's not necessary, right? I can say salary. I can say bonus. You take everything together, all the same. So I decide to print everything, right? If I say print, your name is, if I want to print everything, I can use a function and say, okay, message is equal to uh, who this. I can say your name is total salary. No, let's say salary, and bonus. So I can go ahead to say format, pass the name that is, pass salary, salary that is coming, pass bonus that is coming. So I can go ahead to print the what, the message. But anytime we want to call this method, I can call this method and pass a name to it. Uh, uh, Salary, let's say this, bonus, let's say this. So if you run this method, you see that it gave us your name is this, and that. But you know what? There is a one thing in Python that even though you can take a whole lot of what parameter. Let me give another example. You can have instead of coming like this, right? I can put star star args. You understand? I can say args into 0. That's all. Arg into what? 1. Arg into what? 2. Because I'm expecting 3 parameters. So here, if I put arg args, yeah, it's correct now. I pen the message, right? Let me call it a v2. Let's say I can pass anything to it. I can say uh Segun. I can say 9,000. I can say, let's try and see whether it will work. But it should work. Is type this thing a multiple line argument. Let me try something out. What we actually want to do is let's see. Okay, I think here I can say into name. Here I can say into what, uh salary, right? Here I can say into bonus. So when you want to call it, you now say name is equal to this, salary is equal to this, bonus is equal to this. So it should work this way, otherwise using loop statement. It's telling us your this must be a mapping, not string. Are you saying even the first approach should take the stuff? Look at it. Do you get it? So, but even the first approach, let's try something else. Let's say we don't want to pass, this is one approach. You can pass multiple arguments to it, right? And assuming that you want to pass multiple arguments to it, you don't know the name. You understand? You can actually say into 0, into 1, into 2. But when you want to call this method, you don't need to pass the name of the variable to it. Let me see what offense. Let me see. Let's try this. Okay, it doesn't take this one. We have to pass the right takes a positioning argument 0. Okay. If we decide that it's 0, we want to pass to it. And let's see, it's still this thing. So you can stick to this, or if we want to do it, we can actually use for statement to loop to it, but we don't want to loop to it. Another thing I want to tell you is when you are naming your variable, let me say uh, salary, I can actually pass default value to it. Hmm? I can say bonus, I can say 100. Let me pass salary to be 50,000. So I can say name is equal to Ade. So I can decide that, okay, I pass name, I pass salary, we pass what? Bonus here. Do you get it? So let's see the reason for default value. You see, it actually give us what we pass to it here, right? Right? But if I call this method and pass two parameter to it, it will still take it, but it's going to use what? What does it do? As the name, and okay, let's say we decide not to pass anything to it. Let's say your name is this, salary is this, salary is a what? Default value. Bonus is what? Default value. It not take. Why does it use 1,000? Why? Why does it get your name is 1,000? Okay, okay, okay. Now let me explain this so that you see how it works. If you did not provide anything at all, it's going to make use of all the default value. So if you provide one, you understand? You take the first one. Or if you say, okay, salary is equal to uh, this. So it means that it's only going to change the what? Salary. It will keep the first one the way they are. Do you get it? So that you should know how all this method work. So, but one thing is, if you did not provide the vote, let's say I did not actually provide a default value. It will throw an error. It will not ask me to actually provide because I did not have any default value for it. So I can't just call this method without passing anything there. Can you see it? So it's telling you that missing three require positioning argument. But if I pass default value to it like this, it means that those values are not required. Do you get it? So it means that if I call the method and I did not pass anything to it, it will actually take note. It will actually make use of the all the default value. It will make use of the default value. So now, if you look at this now, this is fine. So you understand that a method can take this so that when you see this in your code, and at times they pass k star star kwargs. This is another thing that we can actually pass to it, quite quark argument, but I'm not going to that now. I'm going to teach you that. So with this in mind, you know how to create a method, right? So I'm going to give you a class. I'm going to give you an assignment. You've learned how to use a list, right? So we'll teach you something. I will give you tasks. I will send the task to you that you need to work on at the end of this class. Let me send this guy to you on your Slack on your so let me stop this guy.